Here in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain how to play Welcome Home by Coheed and Cambria. Now before I begin, I would like to say that if you are in standard tuning now, you will want to take each of your 6 strings and drop each one of them down a half a step. So right now my top string is an E flat, the second from the top is an A flat, the third is a D flat, the fourth from the top is a G flat, the fifth from the top string is a B flat, and then my bottom string is an E flat. Now throughout this explanation, I'm going to refer to my strings by their letter names. The top string is the low E, the second from the top is the A, the third from the top is the D, the fourth from the top is the G, the fifth from the top is known as the B string, and then my bottom string I will refer to as the high E string. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm first going to play the introduction and then break it down. I'm going to run through it only one time here. Now for the introduction here, I've broken it up into 2 parts. Now here I am playing with just a normal clean sound. Now to begin part 1, before we pick any notes, what you are going to want to do is take the palm of your picking hand and you want to lightly rest it on the strings here next to your bridge so that we get a palm mute. And once your palm is rested on the strings, you want to take your pointer finger and you want to place it on the 7th fret of your A string, press down firmly there, and then you want to take your ring finger and place it on the 9th fret of your D. So currently the 2 notes that I have pressed down are the 7th fret of the A and the 9th fret of the D, and I have my palm lightly rested on the strings next to my bridge. Now we are ready to begin part 1. Now what we are going to do first is, to begin part 1, you're going to play your top string open. It will sound like this. And then following that, we are going to rake in a downward motion across our top 3 strings. So what we are going to do when I say rake is you're going to take your pick, you're going to drag it down across your top 3 strings. Now to do that slowly will sound like this. So far here in part 1 we have this all together played slow. Now after I have raked down across the top 3 strings, as soon as my pick gets past the 3rd from the top string, which is my D string, what I'm going to do then is you're going to take your pinky and you're going to place it on the 10th fret of your D. Now pick that note, your D string 10th fret, in an upward motion. It will sound like this. So far all together here we have this played slow. After we played the 10th fret of our D, you're then going to take your pointer finger, place it on the 7th fret of your G. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our palm off of the strings. We're no longer going to palm mute the rest of part 1 here. Here my pointer finger is pressing down firmly on the 7th fret of the G. I'm going to pick that note, and after I've picked it, I'm going to continue to press down firmly and push that note up and down the neck of the guitar, creating a vibrato. It will sound like this. So far all together here in part 1 we have this played slow. After I've played the vibrato there at the 7th fret of the G, I'm then going to place my pinky back onto the 10th fret of the D, play that note one time. Then place your ring finger on the 9th fret of your D, play that note once. And then place your pointer finger on the 7th fret of your D. And here we're going to pick this note, the 7th fret of the D, one time. After we picked it, push that note up and down the neck of the guitar. It will sound like this. So far here all together, we have this played slow. After we played the vibrato there at the 7th fret of our D, you will then pick the 7th fret of the D one time. So far all together, we have this for part 1. After you've played the 7th fret of the D string there, what you're going to do is you're going to place your pinky back onto the 10th fret of the D, play it once. Place your ring finger on the 9th fret of the D, play it one time. And then place your pointer finger on the 7th fret of your D once again, play that note. So far all together we have this played slow. Then after that, you're going to place your pinky on the 10th fret of your A, play that note once, and then place your ring finger on the 9th fret of your A, play that note one time here to end part 1. So that's all the notes here that are played in part 1. Part 1 played all together in slow will sound like this. And part 1 played in roll speed. And now for part 2, what we're going to do is it begins just the same as part 1 did, in the fact that we're going to place our pointer finger on the 7th fret of our A and our ring finger on the 9th fret of the D. Take your palm, rest it on the strings next to your bridge. Play the top string open first. Then you're going to drag your pick. We're going to rake in a downward motion across our top 3 strings. It will sound like this. After you've gotten your pick past the D string, you will then place your pinky on the 10th fret of your D, and you're going to pick the D string in an upward motion. So far in part 2 here we have this played slow. After we've played the 10th fret of our D string, we will pick our palm off of the strings here. And what we're going to do is you'll place your pointer finger on the 7th fret of your G. You're going to pick that note and play a vibrato there for a second. And then following that, you're going to place your pinky on the 10th fret of your D string here. Play that note once. And then place your ring finger on the 9th fret of your D. Play that note once. So far here in part 2, we have this played slow. Then after we played the 9th fret of the D string, which was the last thing that we did here, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pointer finger and you're going to place it on the 4th fret of your D, and then place your middle finger on the 5th fret of your A. Be sure that your middle finger is curved so that it is not touching the string below it, your D string. Now the 2 notes that we're going to play here are going to be the 5th fret of the A and the 4th fret of the D. Pick those 2 notes together one time, it will sound like this. Following that, you're going to move your pointer finger up to the 7th fret of your D, press down firmly there, and then take either your ring finger or your pinky, either one, it does not matter, but place one of the other on the 9th fret of your A string. Now the 2 notes we're going to be playing here are the 9th fret of the A and the 7th fret of the D. You're going to pick those 2 notes together one time. So far all together here in part 2 of the introduction, we have this played slow. Now after we've played these last 2 notes, we're going to move this shape down a whole step. So we're going to move each finger down 2 frets, so that now my pointer finger is on the 5th fret of the D and my ring finger is on the 7th fret of the A. Pick those 2 notes together one time in a downward motion. And then following that, we are going to move your pointer finger down 1 fret to the 4th fret of your D, and then place your middle finger onto the 5th fret of your A string. Play those 2 notes. And that's going to end part 2. Part 2 played all together in slow will sound like this. Part 2 played in roll speed. And now once again, here's parts 1 and 2 played together that make up the introductory riff. We have this.